In emergency management, the definition of a stakeholder is any person or entity with a vested interest in the survival or recovery of a given community.
This is the Stakeholder Prepping Podcast, where the tactical comes from the practical, and today, you become your own stakeholder.
Here are your hosts, Chris and AC.
Welcome back to Stakeholder Prepping, where you, yes, you are the stakeholder in your own survival. And AC, this one, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. We've gone over some topics lately that have been really not boring, but necessary and really gut check topics in the past several weeks. And this one is getting back to kind of our roots. This is a list episode, and it's going to be just fun.
Yeah, I think you're right that we really have gotten to some very deep stuff lately. And this is kind of more back to what we're good at, is some good lists. Like, here's some cheap and easy low budget things you can do to be more prepared. So today we are talking about something I am going to call Grayman home security. And this isn't just for like, hey, if you've got a big, beautiful mountain out in, or, mansion out in the hills on the mountaintop, this is for everybody. There are things in here that anybody can actually take as actionable intel. And now, I think when the average keyboard warrior thinks about home defense, they think about the tactical plate carriers and the moat filled with radioactive alligators and the neon sign that says trespassers will be turned into fertilizer and survivors will be turned into fertilizer again, or something like that. That's not this.
Yeah, so we're not talking like Weezer's version of Beverly Hills in the Apocalypse.
No, not Beverly Hills in the Apocalypse, and we're not talking about the Sea-Whiz cannons outside your home moat security thing. This is very pragmatic home security, home defense, layered home defense. We're calling this Grayman home security.
See, the Sea-Whiz is actually surprisingly affordable. It only costs about as much as your mortgage, but the ammo to feed it,
dude,
is going to send you into bankruptcy.
Is it like 60,000 rounds a minute or something? It's silly, right?
It's something stupid and ridiculous.
And that's one of the coolest military acronyms too. Anybody who knows what we're talking about, the Sea-Whiz, it's that big rotating Gatling gun thing with a big dome on it that you see on the side of like every Navy ship. And Sea-Whiz, the acronym is Close-In Weapons System. But basically, it's the wall of lead. It's like the last line of defense for the carrier battle group as the cruise missiles coming in. They put this wall of lead up with all these Sea-Whiz cannons. Those things are absolutely awesome. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it's if the A-10, the GAU-8 Avenger cannon off of the A-10 Warthog weapon platform and R2-D2 had a baby, that would be the Sea-Whiz.
That is exactly what it is. That is the close-in weapon system. That's right.
But, when people think about, this home security for the apocalypse, they want everyone to know that they are ready for war, right? They're hunkered down and, it's all porcupines and prickly cactus and don't touch my lawn, right? But the Grayman theory is the exact opposite of that. We've gone over it several times. And it's the art of looking like an absolute loser who has nothing worth stealing, while secretly your house is this lethal puzzle box. It's about hiding in plain sight, right? I mean, if your house looks like Fort Knox, you aren't safe. You're just a giant loot box for the local biker gang when the grid goes down. And I almost guarantee they will be wearing the tire tread loincloth that AC wants to wear but has to lose a few pounds for, right?
Yeah, you know it's time for the apocalypse when you can fit into the small size loincloth. Otherwise, it's just silly.
Right. So do we just want to go back and forth on a couple of these and see where we end up?
Yeah, I like that. And I'll start And let's start at the front door. This is the easiest thing. This is what most people see. It's the first thing you see when you look at your house, or any door for that matter, really. And here's what we're talking about: upgrading your striker plates and hinges and screws. We're talking about reinforced door strips, upgraded hinges, and upgraded hinge screws. And Chris, let's blow the minds of our listeners right now. Your front door is a total lie.
It is smoke and mirrors. It is a total illusion. You look at your nice, thick, solid oak front door and you think, yes, I am safe. No one is getting through this bad boy. What you don't realize is that entire thing is being held into place and in your house by half-inch screws that are basically the size of a toothpick.
Literally. And contractors use the cheapest, shortest screws possible just to get the door up so they can go home and drink beer. And
I don't blame them.
I don't blame them, but
it's shitty, but I don't blame them.
It's just kind of shitty. And dude, yeah, contractor grade is just garbage grade. It really is. So when a local crackhead kicks your front door, they aren't breaking the wood of your big giant solid oak door. They are ripping that tiny little metal strike plate right out of that soft, workable pine or fir wood of your door frame. So one kick from a guy high on adrenaline and your door flies open like a saloon door in a cowboy movie. So it's just true. It's not the door. You're not breaking the door in half. So to fix this is an easy one. You need to buy a heavy duty strike plate. And we're talking about, it's a piece of solid steel that's basically as long as you can find. I've actually seen them up to about a foot long with these staggered screw holes. And this is actually pretty normal for affluent neighborhoods in non-affluent places. I have been in Latin America in some nicer neighborhoods in some poorer countries, and from the outside they just look kind of like nice houses. In these, most of the neighborhoods have a guard gate, something like that. They'll have a fencing and gates and things like that. From the outside, the houses look normal. From the inside, they kind of look a little Fort Knoxy because they have these big, giant, overbuilt strike plates. And this is actually kind of normal for people that live in places where maybe home invasions are a little normal. So we'll give you some examples of these. You can find a lot of this stuff on Amazon, and they're pretty cheap money. A good strike plate is like $10, and it's upgraded. It's better than what you have right now. So in a real world scenario, someone tries to kick your door in, and instead of the force hitting one tiny point in the wood, it spreads across that entire door frame. And now on the other side of the door, the hinge side, you can't forget the hinges. If you fortify the lock side, but leave the hinges attached with those tiny little stupid screws, the door will literally fly off the hinges on the other side. So you've just created this pivoting wall of failure from the hinge side. And once you've upgraded the striker plate and the hinges, you need longer screws holding both of them in. And this is the other big upgrade. This 3-inch, 3.5-inch screw is what you're looking for. Go to the hardware store, get a box of heavy duty construction screws, like a Torx head 3.5-inch, and throw away those garbage screws that came with your locks. And what you do is you drive these 3-inch or 3.5-inch, even 4-inch monsters deep into the wall. You want them going past the door jamb, past the drywall, and deep into that actual structural 2x4 stud of your house framing.
So are we adding like another rule of 3?
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Is it another rule? Is there a 3-inch screw rule of 3?
I'm gonna declare it as another Rule of three.
Maybe there's another rule of three. Although, really, you could go four. It's like the something about Mary. It's like, no, man, seven's the number. So you could go bigger.
A minimum of three, and
minimum of three.
I'm gonna default to the ones that slice my hands open all the time when I use them, because I did construction in the basement and made the mistake of buying these ones, and they held really, really, really well, but I cut my fingers with them because I wasn't using gloves when I was using them. Coarse auger thread.
Yeah, they have like a bigger helicoil on them, basically. A bigger, sharper helicoil, right? And the shear strength on screws is crazy. Like, screws don't break very easily. And if we're talking about, 3 or 4 on each hinge, and we're talking about a bunch staggered on the sill plate, it's very hard to shear a screw. And like I said, usually when you kick a door in, it's got nothing to do with the door itself. It's these little tiny screws just come out of the wood. So here's the pro tip. Do not use an impact driver, especially at full speed when you're drilling these pilot holes out, right? If you split the structural wood stud inside the wall, you just ruined your own security. So drill a little tiny pilot hole, and then use that pilot hole to drive it home. And you want to go slow anyway, because you don't want to strip out that giant hole you just made with that big giant screw that Chris talked about. So if you do end up doing something like that, like splitting some of the wood or stripping something out, stripping a screw hole, you can actually put some caulking or liquid nails or that kind of product in those holes, and it will make it much harder to get the screws out. But keep in mind, it will also make it very hard to get them out when you actually want to. So you should really do this kind of thing, the screws, the hinges, the sill plates, for all of your exterior doors. And from the outside of your house, you will never know. No one would ever know that you reinforce this stuff. Now, if you have a sliding door, like sliding glass door or something like that, to secure a big sliding door or a big sliding glass door effectively, you really have to implement that layered protection that addresses the primary vulnerabilities of that, which are these weak factory latches and the ability to be lifted off their tracks in some cases, and obviously the fragility of the glass. That's the biggest thing. You have this big giant sliding glass door, and you see people like put the broom handle or down in the track. So if someone like jimmies the lock, they can't open it. But I'm sorry to break it to you, it's a big giant glass door. So I think we are going to address that a little later, how to deal with the glass.
Why don't we just address it now? Let's talk about security film and move on to Windows. So let's talk about unmarked security film. This is kind of the ultimate psychological prank to play on a criminal, right? So security film is this thick, heavy-duty polyester sheet that you stick into the inside of your glass, right? The graphic specifically says unmarked or no visible brand. And this is the Grayman stuff. Why? Okay. Because you put a giant sticker that says warning, security film installed. The robber or the thief or the loincloth wearing marauder is going to just bring a heavier hammer, right? That's too easy. We want them to be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And I know they have a lot of this. You'll see security film for like car windows a lot, and they'll advertise it like is bulletproof, but it's not bulletproof. It's just like made to slow the bullet down, and it's made to keep the glass from shattering. But yeah, the security film is really awesome. And it's funny, I had to buy some. It wasn't security film. It was actually not super clear, but I have a hot tub jacuzzi thing with a cover on it on the deck, and it's on the east side of the house. And what I was getting was late afternoon sun. The sun was reflecting off one of my windows and starting the hot tub cover on fire. It's the craziest thing. And I've heard about this, like with vinyl siding, it can happen and things like that. But it's just how it happened to happen, how it worked out. And so I had to buy some of this film and install it. And it was like more of a honeycomby thing, because all it was meant to do was just disperse the light just enough so you wouldn't turn your window into a parabolic directed energy weapon of some kind, which is just kind of wild. But it's the same process to install it. You're installing this stuff and you kind of work it out so you don't get any bubbles. But if you have the security film installed, picture the burglar and he's sneaking up to the side of your window. He's got a crowbar. He swings it, expecting that satisfying crash of breaking all of your glass, and instead he hits it, and it just makes this kind of loud, dull thud, like he hit a tractor tire. Now, the glass will naturally break, it will crack, but it stays completely solid because the film holds it all together. This is kind of like the car windshield. Like, try breaking through a car windshield with a baseball bat. It's very, very tough, and that's what this is. The only difference is that a car windshield is impregnated with this stuff at the factory, and you're adding it after the fact to one side.
Right. And so just to give a little bit more perspective on this, most sliding glass doors built after, I think, 1998 are safety glass, the same stuff that's in your car window.
Yep.
So if it breaks into small cubes that are, yes, the corners are sharp, but they're easier to pick up, and they are not designed to just slice your arm open whenever you touch
They're
them.
not gonna cut you in half.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, a plate glass window, like when we were growing up, if you ran through that plate glass window, you were almost undoubtedly going to the hospital.
That's how the bad guy in Ghost died.
Right. It's if you ran through that window, you were definitely going to the hospital, and you were going to school the next day with at least a dozen stitches.
Cool story, though.
A very cool story.
Very cool
Most
story.
of the time. Most of the time.
Right. Yep.
You were either an idiot and you made up a cool story, or you had a cool story to go to school with. But so all of this is now safety glass. You are now sealing the safety glass together, and it comes in all kinds of different tints and colors, and it sometimes looks like rice paper. Sometimes it's supposed to look like etched glass to the outside. They even make transition security film now. So when the sun starts to rise, it tints itself, and then when the sun goes down, it turns back to clear, or it's permanently tinted. There's all kinds of different options for this stuff. But back to your robber or your marauder, imagine the look on his face when he smacks that solid glass and is expecting it to break, and he hits it again, thud, and now he's confused, his wrist hurts, and that crowbar is bouncing back into his face like an axe off of a yoga ball. He's making a ton of noise. He's still standing outside in the bushes looking like an absolute moron. He's going to panic and run away because his movie-style break-in just got ruined by a piece of plastic that you put up in a weekend.
Sure. Yep.
It's too easy to stop this kind of absolute idiot. And we'll post some links to some film that you can buy online. Basically, the thicker, the stronger, but at some point it will start to tint the windows a little more than you want it to. So if it says, completely clear, but you get too thick of a film, it's not completely clear. You get what I'm saying there. You can apply this to sliding glass doors. You can apply it to your big picture windows, or we have a north-facing door that has kind of the framework on the outside, but it's just decorative. And then it's got the actual solid glass on the other side, on the inside. So you kind of have to do some measuring. They're rated in thicknesses, and it's in mil. Mil is a unit of measurement that's used across all kinds of industries. It's used to determine the thickness and strength of the material, whether it's plastic, paper, steel, whatever, 1 mil is equal to exactly 1/1000th of an inch. So it does not stand for millimeter. Uh, a lot of people get that confused.
Right. Yeah. Most people think it's a 2 mil plastic or something. They think it stands for millimeter. It does not. Mil it's a different unit of measure. It's like total American thing too, right? It's a mil. So it's a fraction. It's 1,000th of an inch. That makes perfect sense.
Right. We will use anything and everything except the metric system.
Yeah. Anything to avoid the metric system. So 1 mil is like, 1,000th of an inch. So that makes 0 sense.
Yeah, that's 2 taters thick.
It's two
What?
taters.
Okay. But yeah, so heavy duty contractor paper, that super thick, tough construction paper that you use to lay down, that's 8 mil. That's 8/1000ths of an inch thick.
Yeah. And that's pretty thick in terms of mil thicknesses, right? I think most of the security window stuff we're talking about, you're probably going to get it between like 4 and 8 mil, probably, right?
Yeah. And for the large sliding glass doors, you're going to want thicker film just because you're trying to reinforce a larger weak point. So probably the 8 mil, if you can find 10 mil. I mean, you're going to feel the difference between 8 and 10 mil if you actually get your hands on it. But there is a trick to it. So we'll call this the caulking secret, if you will. If you just stick the film to the glass, a really hard kick will just pop the entire sheet of glass out of the frame in one piece. And it's kind of obvious that you did it because you've got to squeeze all of the air bubbles out and then you just leave it open and all of the glass cracks, but there's nothing holding it to the frame. So
that makes sense.
Everything just pops out in one shot.
Yep.
So what you have to do is anchor it. And so you buy a tube of structural, keyword is structural, silicone adhesive like Dow Corning 995, and you caulk the edges of the film directly into the window frame. Now, your glass and your film are structurally adhered to your frame of the door, which you have now secured with screws to your actual door frame through those 3-inch coarse auger thread torque screws.
That makes sense. So now you've literally glued that window in there and it can't just pop out all at once. You're making that whole piece structural. So you're just going strategically and improving all of the weak points. And in case we didn't make this clear, you're talking about applying that film on the inside of all the glass. This is all on the inside. You don't do any of this on the outside, right? Because the outside is just, like you said, you've got that decorative, little crossbars that make it look like mini windows, but it's not.
Right. And if you don't have those little decorative crossbars, there's nothing saying that you can't apply it to the outside. You just have a lot thicker window and you're doubling your price. But that is also potentially preventing the glass from shattering.
That makes sense.
So you're doubling your resistance. It might be able to stop a 22. I have not tested that. Don't quote me on that, please. But now there are some instances where you may need to get a little more non-Grayman with your home security, and that brings us to kind of those decorative window bars. Especially if you have like basement windows, use bars, but make them decorative. Don't just buy the ones that make your house look like a federal penitentiary. Get the pretty curly Q wrought iron ones that make it look like you care about Mediterranean architecture. And even though you don't, they're harder to get your hands through.
Yeah,
Holy crap. Have you ever tried to reach through those ones to retrieve some sort of note from your high school girlfriend?
No.
Oh my God.
You were dating a girl in prison is what you're saying.
I was dating a girl who had Mormon parents at one point. And I ripped more than a few sleeves trying to get notes from her. That's Jess, if you're listening, Please don't listen to that part. But the burglar sees an impenetrable barrier, but the HOA sees this classy homeowner. So
I love that. It's basically FEMA and your HOA are the two entities in the world that we focus all of our anger towards. That's basically,
I would say that's pretty accurate.
That's kind of it.
Yeah.
That's the only the only organizations I think we focus on really hating is your particular HOA and then FEMA.
Yeah, my HOA needs to listen to episode 8. The sanitation episode.
Yeah. We need
really
to get
in depth.
We need to get your HOA on the program for sure. So, all right, the next one I want to tackle, and this is fun. This is the biological hedge. Basically, this is thorny landscaping, and there's some right ways to do this and some wrong ways to do this, but I think this is awesome. So let's talk about, this is Mother Nature's barbed wire. This is thorny landscaping and the soft perimeters. And not that I have a personal vendetta against friendly bushes or anything, but I hate useless plants, okay? If a bush doesn't grow food or hurt my enemies, it really shouldn't be on my property. Those are the two types of bushes I like. And,
okay, I get that.
And this comes back to my commonality across your preps, right? I like having this interoperability where you've got bushes that can hurt people and produce food. So we can talk about some of those. But burglars love those big, fluffy, perfectly trimmed hydrangeas because they can hide behind them while they jimmy your window open. We want plants that bite back.
Exactly. And we're talking about planting tactical vegetation directly under every ground floor window.
Yeah, I love that. The tactical vegetation. That's exactly right. So here's the plants we want. And I'll give you a couple to check out depending on kind of where you are in the world, what your climate is, right? The one I like is Pyracanthia, which is literally Greek for fire thorn. It's just kind of a cool word, right? But it's got these beautiful bright orange berries that look lovely to your neighbors, but they're covered in these 2-inch needles that will pierce right through denim and leather. And this is the cool part. This is kind of goes to my commonality thing, right? That the fruit of the Pyracanthia, they're classified as palms, and the pulp itself is safe for human consumption. Now, the seeds are mildly poisonous. They contain some of those glycosides like apple, seeds or plum pits or cherries. So there are some poisons in the seeds. The seeds, if they're chewed or crushed, while they're raw, they'll release it's like a cyanide cousin basically, and it can cause some mild gastrointestinal problems. So don't eat the seeds, don't eat them in large quantities. But the fruit itself, a lot of people use it and turn it into jelly and jams and stuff like that. And the fruit itself persists through the winter, which makes them actually a pretty fun bird food. So I would look into that one. So you can, in a pinch, you could turn this thing into food, but it will also hurt your enemies. Now, another good one, barberry is a good one. Obviously, it says barb because it's barbed. Or bougainvillea is a really good one. Bougainvillea is awesome because it has these 2-inch thorns that get this black waxy stuff on it, and it's actually mildly poisonous. It will go through leather and denim, and they actually can cause infection. So that's a great one. That's a really good one to have around. And then even roses can be pretty good here. The one issue I have with roses is they're hard to trim into this perfect square because you end up taking a lot of the important thorny parts off. So that's the one thing about roses, right? But I do like roses because they're also edible. So having things that are edible and mean to your enemies are pretty cool. But those are the kind of the 4 I would look at. So here's the scenario. Someone tries to creep up to your window in the dark, and Suddenly, they're entangled in a bush that's tearing their jacket and scratching their face and making them yell out in pain. Now, there are some tips and tricks to this one too. There's a window clearance rule because you have to keep the bushes trimmed kind of below the windowsill. You don't want to block your own view out the window, and you don't want to give someone a place to hide. You basically want them standing on top of thorns and fully visible to the street. Now, there is a little give and take here when we talk about the Firewise rules too, because we've talked about this, Chris. Like,
That,
right,
yeah,
you're
I
not
was going to
supposed
say,
to
if
have
you
stuff that close. So this is some give and take, right? The Firewise guidelines, they say the first 5 feet is the most critical defensive space around your home for fire. And within that 0 to 5 feet, they say remove all the plants, the trees, all the combustible mulches like bark and things like that. But between 5 to 30 feet, you should plant some low growing stuff. And a lot of this can be kept low growing. So this is kind of at your own risk here. If you're someone that wants stuff close to the windows, or if you're just not in a fire prone area, if you're somewhere where you're like, hey, there's just no way a fire is going to make its way up to the side of my house, then yes, you can use a lot of these kind of tactically pointy bushes, right? And one other consideration with your passively offensive landscaping is potential cover for intruders. If you have any plants or shrubs or bushes next to your home, you want to trim them from the bottom up. And basically, what you're trying to do is make it so you can see people's feet if they're hiding behind them. Whether like this is for you as the property owner on patrol or law enforcement or even private security, this is what they're looking for. Generally, security or police, if they're driving around looking for somebody, they're going to shine their spotlights below the window line looking for bad guys. So if you trim these up enough that you just can't hide behind them, then it's going to be a lot easier to see someone's legs when they're trying to hide behind your shrubberies.
That makes a lot of sense. And that also ties into soft perimeters because instead of a giant chain link fence topped with razor wire that screams, I have a massive stockpile of canned beans and ammunition in here, use a thick hedge of like arborvitae or clumping bamboo because it blocks the view into your yard entirely, but it looks completely and totally natural.
Exactly. And that's where you're going to find that delicate balance of entirely blocking your yard or trimming up enough to see intruders, right? There's a delicate balance there. But the general rule is it's good to follow those Firewise guidelines, right? Like more than 30 feet from your home is fine to put up this giant wall of hedge, like the hedge Sea-Whiz cannon, right? The wall of hedge. Rather than the wall of lead, it's the wall of hedge. Once you get 30 feet away, you can do the big, massive hedge that no one can see through. It's totally impenetrable. That's kind of the Firewise guidelines. So like, you know, if I'm balancing the Firewise guidelines and my own personal safety and security, I probably would put some of these prickly pokey things pretty darn close to the house, maybe a couple of feet away. And then once you got out to that 30-foot perimeter, that's where you can do this layered security and have the wall of hedge.
See, now I'm just imagining a Sea-Whiz launching a whole belt's worth of firethorn pyracantha darts.
I like that. Yeah. In the apocalypse, we'll be using pyracantha as ammunition.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about where it gets really fun. And this is the psychological mind games of the lights and the ghost dog.
Okay. So now we're getting into my favorite section. This is psychological warfare. So let's talk about motion lights and the unofficial beware of dog sign.
Yes. All right. Let's start with motion lights, right? When someone is within the danger zone, meaning they're close enough to break in, a motion light turns on. But remember, we are the Grayman, right? Don't pull up a giant, ugly commercial stadium light. That's one, going to draw down on your battery supply and just kill your entire backup batteries faster than you know how to recharge them, even with an electrical engineering degree. But you want to put up this nice, elegant carriage light that kind of matches your house, but has this hidden infrared sensor built into the base. It looks totally innocent until it illuminates the criminal like a stage actor at Broadway. And this is something that the HOA may beat you up with as well, depending on who your HOA is. So you can get creative here.
Yeah, and the thing about motion lights is many of them are self-contained solar battery setups. So if you find one that you like, that is, I think Bell and Howell does a bunch of them. You see that infomercial a lot, and those are just totally self-contained. So it doesn't matter if you're off grid or you're running a generator or you don't have electricity. They work on their own little solar battery setups. And this is cool because they work when obviously the power is out. So that means that if you're gone during a power outage, then the tire loincloth marauders may not actually know if you're inside your home with your solar generator and your Remington 870 right on the other side of that door loaded with some 12 gauge round called something like Dragon's Breath or the kitchen sink or something like that. Like they may not, and there actually is a 12 gauge round called the kitchen sink. You have to look it up. I bought some. It's ridiculous. It's just this 12 gauge round that looks like it's filled with every single Monopoly piece.
Yeah, and Dragon's Breath is...
Yeah, that's a wild one too.
How much of a psychological warfare trick is that? Especially if you load like a party mix, where the first round is Dragon's Breath and then it's immediately followed by buckshot. So if you are a team of criminals breaking in, you watch somebody light on fire and immediately crumple. And then
this massive hole in the next guy.
Yeah. You could be a team of 4, and if you're the last guy standing, you're not sticking around for long because you just watched 3 of your guys either get decimated by buckshot or
just
light
vaporized
on
or something.
fire.
Right, yeah. So anyway, that's the cool thing about... Yeah, or both. But that's the cool thing about these self-contained lights is not just that they're self-contained and that you've got battery solar for them and you don't need to worry about powering them. It's also if you are not home and there's a power outage and somebody wants to see if they can break in because maybe you're not there, these lights turn on and they think, oh, those may be powered and there may be somebody there and they just don't know. So I just think, yeah, those are a really easy, very inexpensive, cool upgrade.
Yeah. And the other great psychological upgrade is the ghost dog, right? And this is the unofficial beware of dog sign. So don't go buy those bright plastic red and black signs from the dollar store that say beware of dog. I have, or the ones that say like I can make it from the backyard to the front yard in 2.7 seconds. How fast can you run? They look tacky.
So so the unofficial beware of dog sign is actually not a beware of dog sign.
Precisely. It's calling yourself out for being tacky. Instead, leave a massive chewed up Kong dog toy and a giant metal water bowl right by the front or back door.
I see. That's the unofficial. It's not a sign, but it's a sign.
Exactly. And if you don't have a dog, you can still go buy these things and make it look like you have a dog.
Yep.
Hey, when did you get a Saint Bernard?
Okay.
Don't worry about that. Right? And if you want to make a Kong dog toy look chewed up, if you've never had one, you're going to have fun with that because they are hard. You're going to have to run over it with your lawnmower a few times.
Lawnmower is a good one. You find a friend who's got a dog and be like, hey, I need the old Kong toy. Yeah. But there's some other stuff you can do besides just that, right?
Yeah. I mean, make some massive dog prints paw prints on the fence. The thing to do here is let everyone know that you have a massive and misbehaving dog. Dig up some points in your yard that you don't really care about and just go have fun with it. Knock yourself out. The beware of dog sign is actually a liability, and a lot of people don't understand this. But a beware of dog sign rarely acts as a legal shield for owners. From a liability standpoint, in most jurisdictions, courts view the sign as evidence that the owner already knew their dog was aggressive. So owners remain strictly liable in many states, especially if the victim is a child or delivery worker. So if you're Amazon driver, if you're UPS driver, if you're mailman, if the criminal who is breaking into your house gets bit and injured, and you had a beware of dog sign, you can be held criminally liable for those injuries, even
Yeah.
though it's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but
Yeah, I've
that's
I've
how it
I've heard
works.
that a lot, and a lot of people I think don't get that. You're right that beware a dog sign, it rarely helps you with anything. And there's actually some landmark rulings. I think there's the one. It's New York Court of Appeals, and we'll have to post some links to this. I think it's Bard versus Janke.
Yeah, Bard
And
versus Janke is a
it,
famous one in
yeah, it
insurance.
actually changed common law negligence, where courts basically have expanded liability now. So even if a dog lacks a prior biting history, victims can pursue negligent claims if the homeowner failed to control the animal. And a posted warning sign, like the beware of dog sign, is frequently used by attorneys to establish that the owner knew the dog possessed these vicious propensities.
That's pretty much true everywhere, with one exception that everybody probably saw coming with this episode, and that is Florida Man.
Florida, man.
Florida is an exception where clear signage can reduce liability. Under state statute, an owner is generally not liable if they display a prominent sign reading "bad dog" in a conspicuous place, unless the victim is under the age of 6 or the owner is negligent. So then they have to prove negligence.
Effing Florida man, dude.
Yeah.
Florida man, every time.
For real. So now, all that being said, the best thing to do is be able to control your dog. And one of the best ways that you can do that is recall words. We have a very specific recall word for our guardian breed. He's 120 pounds. He very easily could get off leash, and he will protect mom. He absolutely will step in and protect mom with lethal force if necessary. But we have recall word in case he is in danger, or if he gets a little too riled up, starts going after somebody. We have a recall word, and it is a high reward treat when he hears that word. We've started working on that with our husky because we didn't know about recall words until we got him. We've also got a common word between the two of them, and we're working on it with our others. That is, all right, this is your not emergency, but this is your recall word. And that one's simple. It's come touch, right? So we say come touch wherever they are in the backyard or in the house. They know that if we say come touch, there's going to be a treat involved. Their recall word, I don't want to say it because if they hear it while I'm recording or while this is playing in the house or anything, they will
The dog's
immediately
just come plowing through the door right
they're,
now. I love
they're
that.
going to break down the door for
Right,
it.
sure.
But we reward them with very high reward treats like sushi, or sometimes they get like fresh Chick-fil-A nuggets, or
Okay.
an entire piece of cheese, or very, very high reward.
So they know the
treats.
recall word, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's good for calling them back from the street. It's good for calling them back from barking at somebody. It's good for just about any sort of recall that we need. And it'll pull them off of snakes. It'll pull them off of raccoons. It'll pull them off of just about anything that could be a danger to them or others. So that's something that we work on with them pretty constantly, and make sure that they understand it at least once a month.
Okay.
So, but for Grayman home security, make it look like you can't control your dog, right? That ghost dog illusion goes like this. If a burglar is scouting your house and sees a dog bowl the size of a tire and this massive steel chain leash attached to the porch, they aren't going to stick around to find out if the dog is real or a figment of your imagination. They're not going to look to see if it's a 120-pound guardian breed or a 10-pound Chihuahua or whatever. They're just not going to do it. Criminals hate uncertainty and they will avoid it like the plague. They're only going to go for the sure bet.
Right. And you could even put like a fake doggy door on the back of your door so they think like Cujo's was going to run out any second, like one of those Wile E. Coyote Warner Brothers scenes with the fake train tunnel on the side of the wall.
Yeah, I like it.
Fake, you could do a fake doggy door. That's another one. I like that. The ghost dog. That's awesome. So along those lines, one often overlooked, absolutely bonkers home security upgrade is gravel. Man, gravel is just
Oh, yeah.
gravel is one of those things people don't think about. And let's do a little gravel science here too. But gravel is an alarm system that doesn't need Wi-Fi, it doesn't need batteries, and it works after the EMP hits. Okay. Walking silently on gravel is physically impossible unless you are a ninja floating 3 inches off the ground. It's impossible. And it is. And here's the example. You put a path of gravel right under your windows or along like the side of your house, leading up to your gate, things like that. The intruder steps off the grass onto the gravel, and immediately it's the very loud crunch, crunch. And instantly their stealth meter goes to 0. Okay. And it's wild. I hear it. I'll sleep with my windows open. I have a big long gravel driveway, and I'll sleep with the windows open. And you get super freaked out at night because things like deer, they don't walk like people do. So it's not just like this crunch, crunch across your gravel. You hear this like 4 or 5 crunches and then a stop, and like crunches going back the other way. Like they're just not pragmatic when they move, and you know it's deer, and it really freaks you out because they don't sound like people walking, but you can hear it and it'll wake you up because it's really loud. And now it's just a weird thing. It's like, it's like, is that 50 people or is it just like one deer that doesn't know what they want to do? So the gravel selection here is very important. Don't buy the smooth pea gravel because it is too quiet. You want to buy like the 3/4 inch jagged crushed landscaping stuff, like basalt is a really good one. And if you have to look fancy, you can buy that 3/4 plus or 1/2 inch minus plus minus crushed white granite, because those rough edges rub together and they make this much louder, sharper sound when you step on them. So that's really crazy. Like that the sharper, the harder stone, like the basalt and the granite, it's just really, really loud. And, you know, when the gravel gets worked into the ground more, it kind of gets a little more concretey and it gets quieter. So this is something you kind of have to keep up on. Every couple of years, you got to go get another load of gravel so it stays kind of loose, and loose gets very loud.
I will say that you can also, if you're going to redo your gravel driveway and you're going to redo it anyways, or if you're thinking of this as a project, then you can also get glow in the dark granite gravel off of Amazon
Yeah.
and sprinkle it throughout. It absorbs the energy from the sun and then it will glow all night. And there's a couple advantages to that. One, you can see where your driveway is without having to worry about putting up lights or anything like that to outline it. Two, if you sense somebody or hear somebody coming down the driveway while the power is out and you don't have lights, you can still make out an outline of where they are because you will see their physical shadow moving by blackout. So
Yeah, like that phosphorus illumination helps a little bit to actually see who's on the driveway. That's a
and
really
then
good idea.
the negative space where they
Yeah.
are, and you can't see through them. So now you can see their outline in the negative space. So you know roughly where they are. And if you really get creative with it, you can even put in range markers down your driveway every so often.
Yeah, you could put like a line of glow in the dark little pebbly stone. I have some just in one walkway that I do have some kind of fancier pebbly stuff. I bought some little glow in the dark stones that match because it's like river rock and these little glow in the dark river rock things. And they've been there for a couple of years now and they still do light up every night. Not super bright, not annoyingly bright, but they illuminate your path a little bit, which is really nice. But yeah, people underestimate graveling. You cannot walk quietly on crushed basalt. It is just impossible.
I think you're right. You can, but you need to have like, what was it, those moon bounce shoes or something like that, and
Ninja skills.
walk like a ninja.
Yeah, mad ninja skills is the answer. So, what's the last one?
So I think we need to talk about if somebody actually makes it inside,
Okay.
and that is the concealed safe. This is kind of the ultimate bait and switch, right? Let's talk about what happens if they actually get past your thorns, get past your gravel, and your 3-inch screws. The concealed safes are that hidden in plain sight hack. And every amateur prepper buys a giant 500-pound black digital safe, puts it right in the middle of their master bedroom closet, and fills it with their valuables. When a burglar breaks in, where do they go first? Right? The master
Right.
bedroom, the master bedroom closet, right? But a real gray prepper uses a concealed safe, something built into the wall cavity between the studs, hidden behind a totally boring piece of art or a mirror or a fake air return vent. Burglars operate on a clock. They have about 3 to 5 minutes before they get nervous and leave. They don't take time to take every painting on the wall, unless you are one of those people who is a prepper and also has $423,000 in fine art hanging on your wall.
Yes, if you're a prepper and a fine art collector, that's different.
Then none of what we have said will apply to you throughout this entire episode. So
That's
ignore everything.
Yep.
But here's the decoy safe trick, right? And this is kind of my absolute favorite piece of advice here. Buy a cheap, crappy $30 electronic safe from Amazon. Put a couple of expired gift cards, some fake movie prop money, and maybe a sarcastic note inside of it, right? You can make it a very creative sarcastic note too. But screw it into your closet floor or your closet wall, depending on like our master bedroom is on the first floor, so it's on a concrete slab. I am not going to take a jackhammer to the floor to try to
screw it lightly into the wall, right?
Exactly. But don't make it too hard to remove, right? You want this thing to be easy to take, and let the burglar find it. They will spend all 4 minutes of their break-in sweating, swearing, ripping that safe out of the floor, out of the wall, just so they can run out the door thinking they got the jackpot while your actual valuables are completely inside of an untouched fake air vent in the hallway. Right?
I like that. Yeah. So you just the decoy safe because it's the first thing they're going to see, and that's exactly what they're going to take. Why look anywhere else if they found the safe?
Right. And it's just one of those like, okay, yep, I thought you were going to be an idiot, and you
Yeah.
proved me right.
I like that. Yeah. In fact, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like there are these very inexpensive little, like keypaddy safes on Amazon that, yeah, you just kind of can bolt to the wall or bolt to the floor. And you just have that in a fairly conspicuous place, like inside the closet, but like the first place somebody's going to look.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
super, super noticeable. It's like, "Hey, don't look here. All of my stuff
Yeah.
is here. Please don't
And
take
somebody would
this."
just, it's a first thing somebody would take. You're exactly right. Yeah. They wouldn't spend any time looking anywhere else.
Meanwhile, if they just moved over all of the clothes that are hanging on the rack and they see the actual 500-pound safe that's built into the wall,
Yeah.
there it is, right?
Yeah. There you go. I like
Now,
that.
I do wanna bring up, there's one more thing that is noticeably missing from this episode, and we didn't really bring it up or talk about it here, and that is cameras.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that is really an entire episode on its own. And I've been going through a huge camera upgrade at home lately, and I really think we could spend an entire episode talking about cameras and DVRs and digital home security. And this really was way more of an analog home security on purpose, with the exception of like the motion lights. But you're right. We could talk about a total digital home security episode. And I really do want to do that. And right now, this is a great time for me to do some research because, yeah, I'm doing a big uh, upgrade on my camera system. And I'm finding out that there's like certain cameras that work with Starlink and certain ones that don't. And like my existing big, cool DVR, NVR, which is like a network video recorder or a digital video recorder, those don't work with Starlink because of the way Starlink does like that cloud handshake thing. So anyway, I'm going through that on my own right now, and I will have a lot more information to report back. But yeah, this was an analog home security Grayman thing on purpose. I think we can talk about cameras and other digital security on a future episode for sure.
And that is how you secure a house without looking like a paranoid maniac who thinks the UN is spying on them through their toaster.
That's exactly right. Yes, this is all analog stuff, with the exception of the or the security lights, the floodlights. But again, those are like standalone. Those aren't like wired into the grid. We're talking about your very easy like battery solar lights. So yeah, this is not. This is a very just off griddy thing that you could use anywhere.
Glow in the dark pebbles, a a chewed up Kong toy from your lawnmower, and some security film on your windows with
Yeah.
some giant screws in your door
Screws and
frame.
hinges,
Yeah.
some sill plates. This is all easy stuff. It doesn't really change. Although I really do like the tactical hedge thing is a little harder because you got to give it a couple seasons to like grow in. But I'm telling you, the tactical hedge thing, I've given you a couple ideas about some very pokey, angry plants that can also be food if you need them to be. And I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and it is all about layers, tactical landscaping, simple mechanical upgrades. Total cost for most of this, depending on the length of your driveway, maybe a couple $100 and a weekend of sweating in your yard. I mean, the defensive payoff is massive. So I would say it's well worth at least researching the investment for your home. But I am specifically going to look for Firethorn/Pyracantha jelly or jam because I want to taste it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I should get some and try it to see if that's like something I want to commit to. One thing that I've heard, I have never tried it. I've heard that it's kind of mealy and very, I think it's tart but fairly flavorless. I think that's why people do like marmalades and jams with it, but uh you can work it into, into other stuff. But I think all the other ones I gave you are also used in some dishes, and obviously rose petals are edible in some capacity. So yeah, most of these pokey herdy plants are also some level of food.
And, it will probably keep the husky out of the garden.
That's true too. Yeah, probably keep the husky out of the garden. You could use it for your internal security. That's right.
Right. So definitely come back next week. Next week is going to be like most weeks. It is going to be a completely new direction. Until then, remember you are your own stakeholder. We'll see you then.